The rain hit the windshield like accusations, each drop a reminder of everything Marcus had lost. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he sat in the hospital parking lot, unable to move, unable to breathe. Inside that building, behind those sterile walls, his daughter was dying. 7 years old, and the doctors had given her 3 months. Maybe 4 if they were lucky. Lucky. The word tasted like poison in his mouth. He hadn't felt lucky in years. Not since his wife left, not since he lost his job, and certainly not since the day Emma collapsed at school and their whole world shattered into a million irreparable pieces. He didn't notice the woman at first. She appeared beside his car window like a ghost, drenched to the bone, her gray hair plastered to her face. She was holding a crumpled paper bag and wearing a smile that seemed impossibly out of place in the storm. Marcus rolled down his window halfway, annoyed at the intrusion into his private grief. "You look like you could use this," she said, her voice raspy but warm, pushing the bag through the opening. Inside was a sandwich, wrapped carefully in wax paper, and a small thermos. "It's still hot. Coffee. Black. You've got that look about you." Marcus wanted to refuse, wanted to tell her to leave him alone, but something in her eyes stopped him. They were ancient eyes, eyes that had seen too much, suffered too much, understood too much. He took the bag, muttering a thank you that caught in his throat. "Your daughter," the old woman said, and it wasn't a question. "She's on the 4th floor. Room 412. Marcus's blood ran cold. "How did you—" "I've been where you are," she said simply. "Different life, different time, but the same hell. Whatever you're thinking right now, whatever dark corner your mind is backing you into, don't go there. You hear me? Don't you dare go there!" Before Marcus could respond, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the rain as quickly as she'd appeared. He sat there holding the still warm thermos, feeling something shift inside his chest. It was the smallest thing, just a sandwich and coffee from a stranger, but it was the first act of kindness anyone had shown him in months. The first time someone had seen his pain and not looked away. That night, he ate the sandwich sitting beside Emma's hospital bed while she slept. The chemotherapy had taken her beautiful curls, but she was still his little girl, still the one who laughed at terrible jokes and believed in magic. As he watched her chest rise and fall with each shallow breath, he made a decision. If a homeless woman in the rain could show him kindness when she had nothing, he could damn well fight harder for his daughter. The weeks that followed were brutal. Marcus worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments insurance wouldn't cover. He slept in his car between shifts, showered at the gym, and spent every spare moment researching clinical trials and experimental treatments. The doctors were pessimistic, but Marcus had stopped listening to their careful warnings and grim statistics. He'd started listening to something else. Hope, whispered in the voice of an old woman in the rain. It was during one of his late-night research sessions in the hospital cafeteria that he met Dr. Sarah Chen. She was a pediatric oncologist from Seattle, in town for a conference, grabbing coffee at 2 in the morning because jet lag was a beast. She glanced at Marcus's laptop screen covered in medical journals and sat down, without asking. "Neuroblastoma?" she asked, pointing at his research. Marcus nodded, too tired to be suspicious. "My daughter. Stage 4. They've given up." "They shouldn't have," Dr. Chen said firmly. "There's a trial starting next month at my hospital. New immunotherapy approach. We've had promising results. If you can get her to Seattle, I can get her in." Marcus felt his heart stop. I can't afford to move across the country. I can barely afford to keep the lights on." Dr. Chen pulled out her phone, typing quickly. "Let me worry about that. You just worry about getting Emma strong enough to travel. Give me your number. I'm not promising miracles, but I'm promising a fighting chance. Sometimes that's all we need." As she walked away, Marcus sat in stunned silence. 2 acts of kindness now, from 2 strangers. It felt like the universe was trying to tell him something, trying to show him that even in the darkest valleys, light still found a way to break through. The next morning, Marcus went looking for the homeless woman. He searched the streets around the hospital, asked other people living rough if they knew her. Finally, in a small park 3 blocks away, he found her sitting on a bench, feeding pigeons from a bag of stale bread. "I never thanked you properly," Marcus said, sitting beside her. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "For a sandwich? Honey, no thanks needed." It was more than a sandwich, Marcus said quietly. It was the first time in months someone saw me as human. Not as Emma's dad, not as the guy with the sick kid. Just human. Someone worth feeding. The woman was quiet for a moment, then reached into her coat and pulled out a faded photograph. It showed a younger version of herself standing beside a teenage girl with the same ancient eyes and warm smile. My daughter, she said. Leukemia. 23 years ago. We didn't have the treatments they have now. I spent 6 months watching her fade away, and when it was over, I had nothing left. Lost my house, lost my job, lost myself. Ended up out here. She looked at Marcus directly. But I learned something in all that loss. Kindness isn't about having everything. It's about giving what you can, when you can, because you understand what it means to have nothing. That sandwich cost me $3. It was all I had. But your face told me you needed it more than I did. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. I'm taking Emma to Seattle. There's a clinical trial. A doctor I met is helping us. Good, the woman said firmly. That's good. You fight for her. Fight like hell. And when you get through this, because you will get through this, you remember. Remember what it felt like to need help, and you help the next person who needs it. I will, Marcus promised. I swear to God I will. Getting to Seattle was a miracle, orchestrated by strangers. Dr. Chen arranged for housing through the hospital's family program. Marcus's boss at the warehouse, a gruff man named Tony who rarely spoke, secretly organized a fundraiser among the employees that raised $8,000. Emma's teacher started a GoFundMe that went viral when a local news station picked up the story. People from across the country sent money, sent prayers, sent messages of hope to a little girl they'd never met. The trial was hard. There were setbacks and side effects that made the previous chemo look like a walk in the park. Emma lost weight, lost her appetite, lost her smile for weeks at a time. But she didn't lose her fight. And neither did Marcus. 6 months into treatment, the tumors began to shrink. 9 months in, they were nearly gone. After a year, Dr. Chen called Marcus into her office with tears in her eyes and told him that Emma was in remission. Full, complete, miraculous remission. Marcus sobbed in that office for 20 minutes while Dr. Chen held his hand and told him that his daughter was going to live, was going to grow up, was going to have a future. They moved back home 3 months later. Emma healthy enough to return to school and Marcus finally able to breathe again. But something had changed in him. The darkness that had consumed him in that hospital parking lot had been replaced by something else. A profound understanding of the power of human kindness. He started small. Every Friday, he'd make sandwiches and take them to the park where he'd found the old woman. She'd passed away during the winter, quietly, in her sleep at a shelter. But her lesson lived on. Marcus would sit on her bench and hand out food and coffee to anyone who needed it. He'd listen to their stories, learn their names, see them as human beings instead of invisible problems. Emma, now healthy and vibrant at 8 years old, started helping him. She'd draw pictures for the people they met. Little bursts of color and joy that she'd hand out with shy smiles. This one's for you, she'd say, because everyone deserves something beautiful. The small Friday ritual grew. Friends started joining them. Tony from the warehouse came with his wife and teenage sons. Emma's teacher brought her whole family. Within a year, they'd formed a nonprofit, providing not just food but connections to services, job training, and housing assistance. They called it her legacy, in honor of the woman who'd started it all with a sandwich in the rain. 3 years after that day in the parking lot, Marcus stood in the same park, now hosting their annual community event. Hundreds of people milled around, some volunteers, some recipients of help, many both. He watched Emma, now 10 and completely cancer-free, laughing with a group of kids while they painted a community mural. A young woman approached him nervously, holding a toddler on her hip. "Are you Marcus?" she asked. He nodded, smiling. "That's me. I just wanted to say thank you. 6 months ago, I was living in my car with my son. I came to one of your Friday things, and you helped me find housing and a job. I start nursing school next semester." Her eyes filled with tears. "You saved our lives." Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, but it was different now. Not grief, but gratitude. "I didn't save you," he said gently. "You saved yourself. I just helped you remember you were worth saving." As the woman walked away, Marcus felt a presence beside him. as real as if she were standing there. He could almost hear her raspy voice, see her warm smile. The old woman who'd given everything she had when she had nothing. Who'd taught him that kindness wasn't about abundance. It was about choosing to give when you understand what it means to need. That night, tucking Emma into bed, she looked up at him with those bright, alive eyes and asked, "Dad, why do we help people?" Marcus thought about the question, about the journey that had brought them here, about all the hands that had reached out in darkness to pull them toward light. "Because someone helped us when we needed it most," he said simply. "And because everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to be reminded that they matter." Emma nodded sleepily. "The lady in the rain." "The lady in the rain," Marcus agreed, kissing her forehead. Her, a stranger with nothing who gave everything. A single act of kindness that had rippled outward, touching hundreds of lives, saving a little girl, and teaching a broken man how to be whole again. Her legacy lived on, not in monuments or grand gestures, but in sandwiches shared on rainy days, in hands held during dark times in the quiet. Revolutionary act of seeing another person's humanity and choosing to honor it. That, Marcus had learned, was the true power of kindness. It didn't require wealth or status or perfect circumstances. It only required the choice to give what you could, when you could, because you understood, because you'd been there, because you remembered what it felt like to need someone to see you, really see you, and refuse to look away. And in that choice, repeated over and over by ordinary people doing extraordinary things in small moments, the world became a little less dark, a little more bearable, a little more human. Her gift, given freely in the rain, had taught them all how to be more beautifully, courageously, defiantly human.